Our vision is to transform culture by giving millions of children a biblical worldview. Our mission is to inspire and equip the family, the church, and the school, sort of the three-legged stool from a kingdom education perspective.
Welcome to the BJU Press Teacher Edition podcast, where Christian educators are encouraged and inspired as we bring you interviews, practical ideas, strategies, and answer your questions about teaching in today's culture. And here's your host, Jenny Copeland.
Welcome back, everyone. I am so glad you've taken a few minutes to tune in for today's topic. As we get started, and I know I say it each time, but I do want to encourage you to take time to subscribe or follow the podcast so you don't miss any episodes. And while you're there subscribing, would you take just a minute and leave us a rating and review? Tell us what you enjoy about the podcast. And in doing that, it helps us know how to best support you, but it also helps others find the show as well. So all that being said, thank you to those of you who have left a rating or review. And if you haven't, we would really appreciate it if you would take time to do that for the show. Of course, you don't want to miss us on social media. We are Teacher Edition Podcast on Facebook. And by the way, we are also Teacher Edition Podcast on YouTube as well. You can also find us on Instagram and TikTok at Teacher Edition Pod. And don't forget our website. Again, that's teachereditionpodcast.com. It's a great place to listen to the episodes, but there you can also subscribe to our emails, learn more about our great guests, and submit your questions. We have really enjoyed each question that has come in over the past couple of years, so keep those coming. I know it takes a minute, but it is only a minute. And all you have to do is click to record, state your question, and then you're done. Well, except for listening in to hear your questions shared on an upcoming episode. We're counting on you, so don't forget to share those on the website. By the way, have you shared this podcast with anyone recently? You know, when we find a recipe we like or a product, we talk about it. We tell about it, but it's easy to listen to a podcast and then just go on about your day. Take time to share it out. You never know how it might be an encouragement to someone who just needs that little extra shot in the arm right now. Sharing is easy. Wherever you're listening or watching, just click that share button, select the names from your address book, and click to share. You could even take this to your next faculty meeting, or you could share it on a blog or however you communicate. You know, if everyone would share out this podcast with even one or two people, we could reach so many more Christian school educators this year, and that's what we're here for. You know, as I think about our audience and I hear from listeners, we do have quite the diverse group of listeners. And it's incredible to think how God is using so many talents in so many different scenarios to impact young people. We have listeners from large schools and small schools, schools in big cities, schools way out in the middle of nowhere. We have schools that have been around for 100 years and others who are still just an idea in someone's mind. We have schools who are strong and solid and others who perhaps maybe even this week are meeting to decide what will next year look like and if there even will be a next year. Today, I want you to meet someone who is giving his life to support Christian school ministries. I mentioned those schools who are still an idea or a burden. They're still in those planning stages. I also mentioned schools who just really need assistance and maybe a renewed vision. Those are just two of the types of schools today's guest partners with. You may say, well, I don't think that is me. Don't leave. Stay with us. You're going to be encouraged to hear about this work. And honestly, you never know how the Lord could use what you hear in your life or to share with someone else in their life. So today we're privileged to have Ron Gordon with us. Ron Gordon leads the REAP division of RenewaNation and has shepherded dozens of Christian school launches and renewal efforts over the past decade. Now, if you listen to the Teacher Edition podcast regularly, you've probably heard that name, RenewaNation, before. Jeff Keaton, the founder of RenewaNation, has shared with us about his burden for Christian education. And if you remember back around Christmas time, he even shared with us about his new book that just came out. So RenewaNation isn't new to the podcast, but we haven't talked specifically about REAP and some of the incredible resources that are available for Christian schools. So back to Ron. Before joining RenewaNation, Ron spent 23 years in the corporate world, leading manufacturing organizations mainly in the defense sector. Ron and his wife, Tanya, who also serves at RenewaNation, are passionate, and I mean that word in the truest sense. They are passionate about developing kingdom stewards for the next generation. They've been married for 30 years and they're blessed with 3 children, 2 sons, twins, and a daughter. I enjoy every chance I get to be with Ron and Tanya. They're just such a blessing. They're positive, they're encouraging, and they're so biblically minded. And they're always on the hunt for ways that they could support a Christian school, Christian education in general. They're just really a blessing to be around. It's just contagious being around them. So, Ron, I'm really excited to learn more today. So welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, Jenny. It's great to be with you. Appreciate the opportunity to connect.
Glad to have you here. So, I mentioned a little bit about RenewaNation as it relates to Jeff Keaton having been on the show in the past, but I'm guessing a majority of our listeners are not totally familiar with RenewaNation. So, for those listening who aren't super familiar with that ministry, maybe could you start us off just giving us an overview of what is RenewaNation?
Sure. Glad to. So, yeah, Jeff is our founder and just an incredible face and champion for the cause of Christian education. He launched the ministry in 2008. Our vision is to transform culture by giving millions of children a biblical worldview. Our mission is to inspire and equip the family, the church, and the school, sort of the three-legged stool, from a kingdom education perspective, to help millions of children to develop a biblical worldview. There's three primary divisions of our ministry. One is Christian education. Then we have church and family and Manderley Camp. Christian education, which we call REAP, RenewaNation's Education Advancement Program, was the original foundation of RenewaNation. It was the primary thrust of why Jeff felt led to launch the ministry. He had started a Christian school at his church in about 2002, and he may have told this story, but when he did, he looked out to see who could help, who could help him move forward with that and get support. And basically, they say, well, when you get to 150 to 200 students, let us know, and we can help you get accredited at that point. And he's like,
Oh,
well, by the
how
time I get
helpful.
there, I won't need your help, right?
Right, right.
So that was one of the thrusts of why he wanted to get going. So we have three primary focuses in the Christian education space. One is launching, helping Christian schools get launched. Renewing, as you mentioned earlier, strengthening existing Christian schools with coaching, consultation. And then we have other things that we do. We put under the heading of cultivation, which is speaking, training, conferences, mentorship, that kind of support. In all that we do, as you mentioned earlier, our passion is to have a biblical model of education. That's why we enjoy our connection and partnership with BJU Press, because we know that's your heart too. So you can find out more on our website at renewanation.org. And then Church and Family, it was launched a little later in 2017. It's under the leadership of Dr. Josh Mulvihill. Similarly, we do books and conferences and training in that light. We have a family ministry academy that helps focus on youth ministry on more than just fun and games and true biblical discipleship, which unfortunately is a lot of churches have lost the recipe in that. So that's a focus of the church and family division. And then we are blessed to have an 800-acre Christian camp and conference center in the Sequatchie Valley of Tennessee.
Wow.
From a partner, it's just a beautiful,
Amazing.
beautiful place, amazing accommodations. It's not your sort of run-of-the-mill church camp. It's a great place with a venue that allows us to do training for biblical worldview, but it also has some fun and zip line and pool and hiking and rec fields and et cetera. So, if there's an opportunity that a church or a Christian school that's listening that wants a venue for something that they're going to do, programming, we do rent out those facilities and we have our own events there. So that's sort of in a nutshell, the three primary divisions: Christian education, church and family, and Manderley Camp.
That's excellent. And we'll be sure to put that website in the show notes so that listeners can check that out. Okay, so as we started the show, I mentioned a little bit about your background, which included corporate America, specifically manufacturing in the defense sector. Now, that there's an interesting connection, I'm guessing, there with Christian education. Well, I guess maybe I can see the connection with the defense sector. I mean, especially too many indoor recess days. Yeah, definitely. I see the connection. But kidding aside, how did you become so passionate about the vision, the mission of RenewaNation? Take us back a little bit into that.
Well, I was blessed growing up in a Christian school through elementary, and I didn't know the words or the terminology at the time, but that really did form a biblical worldview in my mind. And I saw the difference it made in my life and how I saw the world, how I interacted with the world. In contrast to a lot of what I saw in my 20 some years in the corporate world. And then we our three children, we were homeschooling at the time, and I had moved. I was running a facility, a plant in Massachusetts, and home was Virginia. So we had come back home after I had a relocation and a different opportunity that presented itself. And as we did, that's when I found out about RenewaNation and met Jeff's brother actually first, Pastor Troy, and he introduced me to Jeff and the ministry, and it just immediately it resonated with me because I saw the impact again that had on me and my children, and so to that end, I wanted to help. I started volunteering in supporting Jeff with some strategic planning. And then God had bigger plans. And a year later, I found myself pretty much full time. And that was about a decade ago. And I have been with the ministry since. And it's, God's just doing some really great things in Christian education now. And it's exciting to be part of it.
That's amazing. I love hearing the stories of how God leads people along and brings them into Christian education. Okay, so as you all are working with schools, you have a number of resources available to them. We know that building or maybe rebuilding a school, there's a lot of moving parts in something like that. There are decisions to be made, there are programs to be started, culture to establish, policies, procedures, hiring. It's daunting. I love hearing how you all come alongside and support, and how you also make so many resources and programs available to those ministries. I know we talked several times about how BJU Press is supporting your work and has recently partnered even with RenewaNation to support Christian school launches, Christian school renewal programs. Tell us a little bit more about these programs and how they work for those who might be interested.
Sure. Yeah. So, we've been doing launches and renewals for the past close to a decade now, and during that time, we've been able to help lots of Christian schools, about 25 or so Christian schools that we've helped launch. We have 10 right
Wow,
now that we're in the process of launching, but
amazing.
we're moving that to another level with our recent partnership with BJU Press, and it's a the model that we have. We've created a 10 module training program.
Okay.
It's got over 100 different templates that are customizable to each entity, and so they can use our base formats to then come up with their own system, their own programs and
Wow.
procedures,
Yeah.
and then we have a seasoned coach with that is assigned to each of those projects. And so the coach, the 10 module training is spans a period of about a year, and during that time, when they come through that process, they have a strong foundation to build to launch the school upon. So that's the framework. The reason why we really like working with BJU Press, and the reason why I think it's a really a good partnership. Even before we started going down this path, we would recommend to the launches to make sure they checked out the textbooks, because the biblical context that's provided, the insights that's available in the teacher editions. There's so many teachers now coming out of public schools that are coming
Absolutely.
into Christian schools, and they don't really understand the difference. What does it mean to teach biblically? So that's critical and probably a number one for why we've recommended BJU Press in the past. But also the academic excellence, the rigor that's in there is, 25 years ago, BJU Press was a different animal. That was people still sometimes think. I said, no, you've got to go check. They
Right.
are some of the
Yeah.
strongest textbooks that are available today. They have a diverse staff, very strong. I've been to the press several times, and I just always impressed at the level of excellence that you guys have. And then the third is the resources and support with the field reps that are out there, also the educational consultants that can come in and help what does it look like to train. So we absolutely love the partnership, and we see it being a really strong thing for Christian schools. That's sort of the launch piece. The renewal is it's really a consultation, a coaching process, and with the primary piece being helping the administrator and the board really move forward on various different issues that they may be struggling with, and sometimes don't even understand or know exactly what those are. And so it's a three-phase program. The first phase is assessment, which is an on-site visit with two or three of our coaches. The second phase is strategic deployment planning. That's something that I've done for the past 20 plus years. And we use a methodology called Hoshin Conry for that. And it's a powerful tool to make it much more active and engaged, prayerfully based, but then focused around what direction we feel the Lord leading in each of those situations. And then the third phase is accountability coaching. It's a 3-year program in total. And so that allows us to sort of work with the leadership team. And that once that strategic plan is put in place, the very next day, there's things that happen, right? There's changes that occur, and that plan has to be dynamic. And our coach helps navigate that journey over the next few years, with our intent really being not to do everything for the school, but to teach them, right? To
Right.
teach them to
Right.
fish so they can keep on fishing
That's
long
exactly
beyond
right.
our engagement with them. So we've done that, like I said, to about with 25 different schools across the country, and we have about let's see, 5 that are currently active, and
Wow.
several others that are looking to get going in the fall. So um, once again, BJU has been a partner with us in this as well, and this is a 50% discount for those that are utilizing the BJU textbook. So if you want to know more, certainly check out on the show notes. Go to RenewaNation.org and then go to the REAP site, and you'll see a lot of further details and a way to connect to us.
That's excellent. Great, great partnership. Okay, so let's talk a minute about renewal efforts specifically. There are those listening who maybe are joining us and they're listening to this and they're seeing some of these needs in their school. Maybe, what you're saying is resonating with them. Share with us some of the most common challenges or struggles that you're seeing as you're out working with schools.
Sure. There's there's a lot of unique situations that occur. So there's a broad brush of items. However, there's two that are sort of the predominant items that we really find almost in every situation. First of all, is around leadership. As one may expect, despite whether it's a corporate world or a school or a church or what any organization, leadership is critical. And there's two sides to that. There's one that is the day-to-day head of school responsibilities, and then there's the board piece. And we've seen challenges in both of those.
Sure.
From a board perspective, there's just an understanding of what it is that the board is supposed to be doing. What's their role? What's their purpose? How do they help drive that path forward? And how do they support the day to day, but at the same time stay strategic in their purview? So that's something that when we first started the program, we would evaluate whether the board needed the training or not. And today, in our first visit, we go ahead and just do the training because we
Great
found it's
idea.
always needed.
That's right. You can always
So
learn.
that's a sort of standard item. And then the other piece is the head of school aspect on the leadership side. There's just so many different aspects that the leader of a Christian school has to deal with and understand.
Sure.
Spiritual development, academics and instruction, financials, marketing, donor development, facilities. You've just got so many different things that are on the plate of the administrator. And so part of what we do with the renewal is really try to help come beside and fill some of those gaps, to have some development and coaching in those areas that they may not be as strong or capable in, and provide some support and resource in that. So leadership is number one, and then the second one is biblical teaching. The bulk of teachers, as we just shared, even those that are in Christian universities, unfortunately, are being taught how to teach in a public school setting. We've been interviewing teachers for a long time, and there's several situations, issues that come up that we mentioned the word biblical worldview, and what exactly is that? And so
Oh dear.
having an understanding of what it looks like, not just to be teaching in a Christian school, but to be teaching biblically
Right.
and having the foundation of all that they're doing to in the point of impact, which is the classroom, is a critical piece. And that's why we like BJU Press from a perspective of the textbook is the way, the means that they can support and help the teachers, and we try to do the same thing with pedagogy and instruction in support of that as well. So those two areas, leadership and biblical teaching, are certainly the top two that we typically find.
Sure. So important to have that support and that guidance. Like you said, with leadership, they can't know all that. They can't do all that. And often they're forced to in a Christian school environment and just not knowing where to turn or where to get that good biblical support. So that's great. I love that you come alongside in both the leadership and the teaching roles. That's great. Okay, so I know we're running close on time for this episode, but you mentioned about REAP's cultivation efforts. I'd like to go back to that if you don't mind for a minute.
Sure.
If you don't mind, tell us a bit more about that and specifically about, I guess, some of the offerings that our listeners might be interested in taking advantage of.
For each situation, we have several different offerings that have sort of been developed because of those unique needs. And so we really try to come beside the school that we're working with to determine where they have opportunity, where those needs are. But typically they're in groupings such as speaking. There's our primary inspiration voice is Jeff Keaton. He's just God has blessed him in a special way to really motivate and make people question their
Right.
priorities and what biblical worldview education looks like for their children and why that's so critical. So Jeff is that speaking component, and then we have my wife and myself and Gretchen Pike. All three do some training and more on the equipping side. We do have some training courses. We have one referred to as Cornerstone. That's a 6-hour training on really the key aspects, the basics of what biblical worldview instruction looks like. That was developed by Tanya as well. We have some REAP conferences that we've done over the past several years. That content is available for download or streaming on our website from both 22 and 24. And we have some new plans I can't speak about yet with in the
Oh,
future, but
I guess we'll
exciting
have to
ones
have you back.
that yeah, absolutely, that will hopefully be connected with a partnership, our partnership with BJU Press as well. So that's exciting. And then there's also a whole smorgasbord of just specialized, unique training for developing student-led discipleship groups, shepherding middle schoolers. We've developed various different modules to help meet those needs. And then we just launched a career center on our website. So those that are interested in opportunities in Christian education can go find those opportunities at some of our partner Christian schools on that career center. And then there's also special needs, special assignments that come up for Christian schools that say, "Hey, we just need board training, or we just need some work with support in a capital campaign or strategic plan." And so we'll support schools in sort of those targeted efforts that they need help. We do mentorships as well with teachers that and teacher groups that may need more hands-on support in that area. There's some other offerings that are more on the RenewaNation top level side, though, that I would definitely need to mention. One is the magazine. We use the RenewaNation Review as a lot of folks find out about us or know us from the magazine. It's become one of the leading biblical worldview magazines in the nation. And there's fewer and fewer paper publications out there, but
It's
we
true.
still have a growing demand for these. And so they're excellent marketing tools for prospective parents at your Christian schools. And they're also a great retention tool for the current parents that you have. We also have something called the Viewfinder. That's a diagnostic tool that's we've started using it for all of our new hires. It's really trying to identify whether or not their worldview is aligned with a biblical perspective. And
Interesting.
so, even for Christian schools that are out there today, they're using them even for some of their high school grades to evaluate whether or not their programs, which where there's where are there gaps in their Bible program or in their from a theology of works perspective, every piece of their curriculum. So that's part of something that you really should take advantage of if you're a Christian school is that viewfinder. And then the last thing I'd mention is the Biblical Worldview Show. That's something that we launched last year, and it's a monthly podcast that really focused on biblical perspectives and apologetics with critical issues of today, like critical theory, Marxism, abortion, digital addiction. There's about 50 different episodes that are available out there, and
Great.
again, some of the Christian schools are using those in their high school classes, even to help support some of what they're doing with their training. So those are all potential options in the sort of cultivation piece of what we do with REAP.
That's incredible. Yeah, that's a boatload of resources. I love it. I'm so excited about the Career Center because that's one thing about being a Christian educator. You jumping on something like Indeed or ZipRecruiter. Yeah, it's going to be kind of hard to find where you're really aligned. So I love having a mechanism, a platform where you know you're going to be more you're going to be well aligned even at the start of your search. So that's awesome. And I will say, I loved you talked a lot about coaching opportunities, mentoring opportunities where you partner and come in and help. I will say to listeners, I know that this really does happen. There are a lot of different programs and groups out there who are offering similar type things, but I'm here to tell you they are the real deal. I love hearing their stories of how they're coming alongside. It's not like I'm your coach, let me know if you need anything. It's I'm your coach and I'm going to be right here next to you. And I really appreciate their vision on that, their passion on that. Because we need that support. Educators, we often feel siloed and alone, and it's like, where do you go? And I just really appreciate the passion that you and Tanya have for, I guess you can say, holding up those arms of Christian schools and just really even to help jumpstart new ones. So if it's okay with you, I'm going to go ahead and include all the links that you've mentioned to those different resources in our show notes so that listeners can reach out. If they have other questions, they can get more information. And listeners, don't hesitate to do that. This is what Ron and Tanya and their team do. They're solid, they're experienced, and they're completely committed to this work. So Ron, thank you so much for your time today. It's really been great having you on the show today.
Thank you, Jenny, and thanks for what you guys do. I truly do appreciate BJU Press, and for all the listeners out there. Our work, our effort is to help support you, and so thank you for being on the front line and doing the day-to-day hard work. And we really, to what Jenny just shared, we just want to come beside you. We want to help you. So if there's a way we can support you, please let us know. Please reach out to us.
Listeners, thank you for joining us today as well. I hope you enjoyed learning more about this ministry, as I definitely did. Remember to go to teachereditionpodcast.com to learn more about this show and submit questions for upcoming episodes. Of course, be sure to subscribe to the podcast and follow us on social media. Now it's time to get back to your day. But it's not just any day. Every day in the classroom is your day to impact and inspire through God's power and also through His grace working in you. Go do what God has called you to do.